When your kid is strong enough to finally uncurl your fingers. How many of your dads remember when your kids could finally uncurl? Well, is anybody going to uncurl God the Father's fingers? God the Son? I don't think so. So right off the bat, the Gospel of John, chapter 1, from verses 1 through 18, is a literary unit which is actually a poem that was a hymn that was sung by the early Christians. There are about 12 literary sections of the New Testament that pre-existed the author's use of it, and John 1 through 18, was such a composition of poems and hymns. It was liturgical in the sense it was part of the confession of the early church. Who is Christ? What is faith? And what is life? Let's look how John answers that, and he begins, and let me go ahead and turn to the Greek text here. John 1:1 in the English, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In arche, ein halagos, kai halagos, hein pros tu theon, kai theos, ein halagos. When the beginning began, the Word already was. The verb is an imperfect active, which means when the beginning of the universe began, the Word was already existing. Thus, the Jehovah's Witness and the Unitarian, who says that the Word was created at the beginning, are in error. If John wanted to say that, he could have used a tense, which meant when the beginning began, the Word began. But he did not say that. Now, the Greek has in arche, which is exactly the same as the first two words in the Greek Septuagint translation of the Old Testament. Whereas the Hebrew in Genesis 1:1, Bereshit bara Elohim hashamayim b'charetz. In the Septuagint, it's in arche. Now, any Jew would know the moment he saw in arche when the beginning of the universe began. Not the beginning of the story when Mary had a baby. Not the beginning of the nation. It means the beginning of everything. When the beginning began, the Word already was, and the Word was, and here he says, pros ton theon. The Word was in a face-to-face relationship with God, an intimate relationship between the two. And the Word, kai theos, ein halagos, and God was the Word, or you would put it in English, the Word was God. Because you take a word out of its normal order and you put it to the front. In this case, the word God was moved to the front of the phrase so that you would emphasize it. So when the beginning began, the Word already existed. And the Word was in a personal, face-to-face relationship with God the Father. And the Word was God. Almost as if it's a symphony. Almost as if the music, there was a clash of the cymbal and the Word was God. That's why the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Word was a God, is a weenie translation. It wimps out. There's no big climax. The cymbal doesn't explode. So when the beginning began, the Word already was, and the Word was in a personal relationship with God, and the Word as to His own nature was deity. Now listen to me carefully. Who is Christ? The Word. The Word. That's why from verses 1 through 18, the identity of Jesus of Nazareth